Kyle here from allmediareviews.blogspot.com. I'm not sure if I should. I always make these decisions on the fly, anyways. But to do a video blog, do a review of Party Down, or do Party Down separately, I guess it's really not that extensive. I'll just tag it and stuff like that. So I do have some stuff coming in the mail. I can show one thing just off the bat here. I did get in the mail. Please subscribe, by the way, if you haven't subscribed. Thank you. Really appreciate it if you've subscribed recently. Just check my video history, check the blog, check Twitter, Instagram, etc. If you want to know what about progressive rock, art rock, entertainment, sports occasionally, documentaries. But I got these things in the mail, saw this on Instagram, and I'll fully admit that these were not authorized, unfortunately, by the artist, but they're still kind of cool. They're these patches from Fates Warning's second album, and I'm not getting a lot of light here. Again, there we go. Anyway, you can see them, maybe if I move this around a little bit. Yeah, there. That looks a little bit better. Okay. Anyway, these patches are kind of cool. So, they weren't nothing, but they weren't breaking the bank per se. I think they were $10 a piece. And Fates Warning's a favorite band of mine. As much as I didn't realize when I did order them, they were from a site that's got a bunch of these things, mostly for metal, 80 metal specifically. That they weren't authorized. So are they gonna mention that? Probably not, unfortunately. So. But it's a cool thing to have to an extent. I don't know, how much work there is to manufacture these things and make these. But I have finally, after trying to remember when I put the order in. I have to look in history. Anyway, it was initially expected to be received sometime last fall, around November. The Mask of the Phantasm vinyl record, New Axial Age. It should be coming my way sometime in the next few weeks, because I've been in touch with Omar Ghaznavi, who's the person who's kind of driving that band, but that album came out in 2021, and just in communicating with him, it's not been an easy process in terms of time, work, and maybe even more importantly, just the cost, which is not unprecedented. It seems like getting vinyl pressed and then shipping vinyl, both combination, it can be a bit taxing from a cost standpoint and work standpoint, especially. But I don't know. I don't know if they put out another record, if they're not going to put it on vinyl or not. But the other one that I'm supposed to be getting is the Toehider record. I have little to no members of the Memories. I just joined the Discord, so maybe I'll get some more inroads, but the receipt I got when I ordered it back in December was between February 18th or something and April 1st. Obviously, it didn't happen because I haven't received it yet. So, but I hopefully in the next few months, Anyway, love that record. It was my finished number 2, number 3. I can't remember. Number 2, number 3 last year for albums of the year. So, yeah, okay, so another announcement that I could make before I get into Party Down and maybe one or two other things. I'm still not on the ball about my list that I've been talking about ad nauseum over the last X number of weeks, months, Marillion song list. I haven't been able to do any of that stuff. I did get a phone. I did get a new phone, which maybe I'll be able to actually. This is one of the flip kinds. Been waiting to get one of these, but need one of these for our trip to San Francisco. I'm going to a wedding of my cousin's. We're going to have to be using probably Uber or Lyft. I didn't have one. But I may be able to start making videos on this because this does have a camera. I need to... It has a camera, obviously, but you can do video, of course, on smartphones for ages. But to put it mildly, I'm not used to using this thing at all. But like anyone who's never used a smartphone or an iPhone, I'm sure it's just a matter of getting used to it. Anyway, we'll see. Maybe the quality of the videos will turn out better, but I have no idea. Man, just in terms of announcements and everything, well, I don't think... Did I tell about the Hotel the Laughing Tree album? I don't think I did. I don't remember. The last video I made was probably over a week ago because I've been preoccupied with work and a bunch of other things. So Hotel of Laughing Tree is releasing their comeback album. Like the last album was in 2015, and they had Hotel Junk Box. I think it was 2018. That was just like, leftover, like, B-sides, stuff like that. The last proper full-length album, New World Sundown, came out in 2015. So it's 8 years, sort of a reunion comeback album of sorts. It's called Faraway Friends. It comes out on April 28th. And I could do a review of it any day now, actually. I kind of feel sort of compelled to just kind of wait. Maybe I'll wait till the week of it comes out. But I've listened to it enough times. Well, I haven't listened to it like so much that I'm just like sick of it, or I just know it like the back of my hand. But I've listened to it enough times, and I'm a pretty big fanboy. I absolutely love their debut album, Terror, and everything after. I'll preach to the choir. I'll preach over and over again about how this band is a band that fans of the Deer Hunter, especially, could and very much could like. But this new album is, I think it's mature. There's differences in it. There's a clear difference in terms of just time and just the members, the primary members, AJ Estrada, Brandon Peterson, I forget the drummer's name. They have a new podcast called Songs of the Season. It's on Spotify. I forget the name of it. But they're going over like the whole catalog, like one a week. Songs out of season. They're pretty long discussions, like any podcast. Even for a podcast, they go well over 2 to 3 hours. But yeah, Faraway Friends. I may not be able to wait to that point, but because I know people have been doing like the Jason Bieler reviews early, and doing early reviews on YouTube. They sent it to me. They sent it to me like almost a month ago. So I've been listening to it for a while. Just need to get it out there. So, but it's it's a record I'm really enjoying in a lot of ways. Fanboy bias aside, regardless. So that's coming on April 28th. It's on Bandcamp. It'll obviously be on Spotify and some of the other sites. I think they're going to try to press it on CD. I don't know about vinyl. It'd be lovely if they could. Maybe it will. Maybe we're talking down the road, like maybe in a year or something. I don't know. You've seen artists produce vinyl that are not of a very, very different sort of stature is not the right word. Level of fan base and economic. The question they'd have to ask themselves is, are their fan base going to want to buy it on vinyl, I guess? And I would think some of them would, but anyway. Yeah, I posted that thing last week about having a dream, and they would be on the bill at a festival for the Deer Hunter fans. You'd have the Deer Hunter, of course. You'd have Dirt Parabens, and that's another big announcement is Dirt Parabens announced that they're putting out, there's not a lot of details, but they put out a poster. They put out some T-shirts they're selling. The second part, I guess, of the Deadhorse series of albums. It's gonna be called. Oh man, it's like a subtitle, and I wrote it down. And maybe I should make a comment about that stuff that I just heard about too, and some other stuff that has come my way before I get to Party Down. Or maybe I'll just do Party Down separately because it makes sense. Dirt Parabens, Firebird. So, do I want to dispel this whole thing that I was talking about? Maybe I could just briefly. So, just something about Deadhorse. The Deadhorse album, it's my album of the year in 2020. If I was still doing 2020, my favorite album from that year right now, it probably would still be number one. It's a great record. In some ways, it's my favorite record. The most impressive record has a lot of my favorite songs from them. They have so many great songs, or Parabens. But this Firebird or Deadhorse 2, they're working on it, maybe coming sooner than you think. We already have like an artwork or a poster or something like that. And then Neil deGrasse posted something about how they want to, they may be pressing it on vinyl. I have, of course, the Deadhorse record, the first one. on vinyl. I don't think. Yeah, they didn't. We got the CDs from all the Ravenlocks, and then Queen of the Night has just been digital, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they didn't put it out on any physical form at this point that I know of. But anyway, I was just we were talking. This guy on the Dream Theater forums I know recently discovered through his this roulette thing, this kind of game that they play where people submit songs and stuff. And I didn't actually send him. I'm playing in the roulette. I don't typically do those. I didn't send him to Per Robin song, but someone else did, songs actually, and he got totally into them. And I talked about how, when I was following up about that, how that Deadhorse record, it came out right around the time, like when I heard the songs on the Deadhorse EPs, which is chronicled in my blog and on the YouTube channel, probably going back to 2019 and it was 2019 and then 2020. Then they put the whole thing out with the extra, like, little, like, theatrical storytelling clips and stuff like that of old radio in one large piece, and it came on CD and vinyl. Right in, like, it was like October, I think, or early November of 2020. I don't know if I got the vinyl until the next year. I showed it on video, but anyway, I have a distinct memory. In fact, I got the CD. I think it was the CD. Maybe it was just listening on my computer. Listening to it all in full, like, the first couple times, right around the time that my wife and I's dog Coco was really struggling and had to be put down. And it's kind of a dark story, futuristic, sort of similar to like Westworld. And I really would like to invest more time in just understanding that story alone. But it has a stigma about it for me. I kind of can't hold back the tears in a way because I think of Coco and the way things changed with COVID around that time too and everything. It's very much of a 2019, 2020, a lot of stuff is like that to me, where COVID changed everything, the lockdown and sort of life in general going forward, especially losing Coco. And so I don't know if I'll ever be able to get past that. But it's a great record, and it's one that, I've listened to a number of times, but I probably need to listen to more. That's what I've always said, especially recently, about music that you love. You need to return to it as much as you can just to reinforce and not forget why you love it, because life is short. So anyway, Dirt Per Robin's Deadhorse, and then so we're going to get Deadhorse 2. Now, I don't know because Neil mentioned after they finished Queen of the Night and the full-length, feature-length film, or whatever you want to call it, the next plan or the next project they had already planned was another film. They needed to get more money. They're going to try to crowdfund. They are doing crowdfunding with the T-shirts. I ordered one the other day. Was going to be a classic werewolf story, because Queen of the Night looked it's black and white, very retro, early old time silent film Hollywood. I pictured it being like an homage in some ways to that, like an original story, but in that style too. But I think about Deadhorse and the next shot of this Firebird, doesn't seem like it would be the werewolf story that he's talking about. So I don't know if that's been put on hold or what. Maybe Neil could enlighten me and help out. But we got to keep tabs on that. So, there's been other stuff that has come up, of course. But, like I just watched the Notes Reviews Roundtable, and my friend, who's a good friend of Notes Reviews, has been collaborating with Notes Reviews, Matt O'Leary Music. Matt O'Leary Music. There's a Matt O'Leary that's not Matt O'Leary Music, but he's part of the Q1 Albums of the Year 2023 albums panel. They just did a video. It's like an hour and a half, but if you like those kind of things. And they brought up a bunch of records that that I hadn't heard of. And to go along with that, there's another one that I'm sort of... Well, there's a few things new albums that have just kind of come my way, including thanks to Matt O'Leary. He had done a review on this Caroline Polachek, who's this sort of singer-songwriter musician, doing stuff with like vocal effects, like even some little auto-tune, but more very like Imogen Heap influence. And I hadn't really listened to that much, and then a bunch of people on the Dream Theater forum started talking about her, and I listened to some, and I'm like, yeah, there's the Imogen Heap thing is definitely there, but in a good way. So Caroline Polachek is one that is going to be, it's crossing my playlist. Crown Lands, they sound a lot like Rush. They sound like 2112 or even Farewell to Kings through Permanent Waves era Rush. I'm still kind of giving them the benefit of the doubt. I'm kind of going back and forth. I guess I kind of may ultimately see this album. It's their second album, I guess. It's called Fearless. It starts with like an 18-minute track. It opens with, like a tribute to Rush, like Steve Morse's major impacts. It's like, this is our love. We're gonna play. We're gonna write the best Rush album Rush never made. But I don't know how much staying power and ultimately if I'm gonna lose it. There's a fine line between being a clone band or basically overtly, Greta Van Fleet. I never got into, and I don't. Whereas Wolf Mother, I felt like I liked them, although the novelty only lasted for a little while. I'm hoping that Crown Lands, this will be good enough, but I'm also hoping that, bring in a different vocal style, bring in something else that changes it up a little bit. I don't know. But I'm kind of on the fence, but I'm kind of on board with them, with this album, Fearless, that came out, I think, this past week. But then there's a couple other records they mentioned. Dispirited Spirits. This is, notes, reviews, rhyme signatures, love that guy. Nathan on Shuffle, absolutely love his channel. Travis Lauch, and Brent, Similitude of Prague. And then they've had other people on there. Of course, they've had 360 Days of Prague and the Prague Corner, Scott from the Prague Corner. They've had a couple others anyway. Almost everyone he brings on those panels is really great for those type of group. But they always bring up albums I haven't heard, and Notes himself does frequently. But Dispirited Spirits and The Vagabond, I remember Rhyme Signature mentioned The Vagabond. I'm curious about that. And even this band that Matt O'Leary had mentioned, Dutch Uncles with an S. He says their new record is disappointing, but the previous one I wish listed on Rate Your Music. There's like one or two others. It's just been kind of crazy. No, someone on Twitter mentioned a different band called The Arcadian Wild. That's what I should just do, my wish list on Rate Your Music. Related to Notes Reviews, he has a podcast called Quid Prog Quo that's on Spotify and whatever. It's related. He has another podcast to do with metal I've never listened to. But anyway, Quid Pro Quo is like him and one other guest. It's like different guests, a couple female guests. Anyway, he mentioned him and like in the previous roundtable discussion for 2022 albums, at least Rhyme Signatures did, mention this band, this guy Will Wood. Will Wood's like this sort of multi-instrumentalist, singer-songwriter, composer of like theater rock, but it's kind of kitschy, and I want to like it. I started listening to like Will Wood's debut album, the Normal album, a little bit yesterday, yeah. And I don't know if I can get into it. However, I can say this. It reminds me of a few different bands. The one that came up the most, though, when I listened to about 2/3 of that record, was the band Bryan Scary. It was a guy, I guess, who I mentioned a couple years ago when I got into the band Eldrin. This guy who, big Apes and Androids fan, also loved. I found he had uploaded Eldrin songs. I love that album from 2018, Misinformation Aid. It's like neo-psych, prog, electronica, conceptual, anyway. They're great, and there's actually their guitarist is trying to make a solo record. He's been working on it for the last 2 years and trying to fund it. Anyway, so that's the story on Eldrin. But related to Eldrin, like this guy was talking about, and Apes and Androids, this band Bryan Scary, and I noticed a lot of people really like Bryan Scary, and I never could quite get into Bryan Scary, but I like moments. It's progressive pop, progressive rock, piano rock, and Bryan Scary's been making music for like maybe almost 20 years, back into the early to mid 2000s. And it's one guy, but he has bands, and it's like, and it's a matter of whether I didn't hear the right thing or I didn't invest enough time, and I'm still gonna do that. I still have, just like Toehider, Bryan Scary. I have a feeling that I'm going to, if I can find the time and invest, I'm gonna just go through basically the whole catalog at some point, because I listened to the Bryan Scary album yesterday from 2012. I don't have it on here. Birds is the one from 2019. It's called Daffy's Elixir, and it's really good. It's tons of moments, but I've only listened to it all the way through once, so I got to get through it. And I want to go back and just, if I have the time, I want to sort of like steamroll. This is like the Dirt Poor Robins, or a little bit like with Eldrin a few years ago. think I owe it to myself, and if you like Queen and ELO and the Deer Hunter and Ben Sinister, yeah, and even Apes and Androids, the falsetto vocal styles at points, Jellyfish, huge amount of Jellyfish elements. Bryan Scary is very much you have almost no excuse to at least check them out. In fact, I'd say that I will try to invest more time over the coming days, weeks with Bryan Scary's music. I'll have to do at least one video on them. I mean, if not a whole series. Anyway, so after a couple years, because I found out about them in the summer of 21, I think I'm finally maybe going to dive deep into and get the full gist about Bryan Scary and the Bryan Scary band. And then there's the Bryan Scary, and there's another name for that he goes by. He's got he's got a band. Shoot, it's evil something birds. There's Bryan Scary and the Shredding Tears, not Birds, Shredding Tears, which they had the album Mad Valentines. It came out in 2009. It was an EP, I guess, but that's a different project. But Bryan Scary himself does it all. I don't know. It's the whole, even with the name Bryan Scary, it's just weird getting used to that. But so the other thing that came across, there's a band that I want to check out. I know that Prog Magazine, now it's Louder Than Sound, does recommendations. There, my wife and I watched, I haven't done that review. Maybe I'll do that separately. I'll do a separate review of that now. The Women Who Rock series was made available on Amazon after it was exclusively on it was one of the cable networks, but anyway, it finally was made available on Amazon. We watched it. All women bands, female bands, and Warpaint, the Warning. There aren't that many. Ars Nova, or largely female bands. I mean, I like individual artists Imogen Heap and Kimbra and Esperanza Spalding and Timbre and Brooke Wagner and of course Janelle Monáe. Even a little bit of St. Vincent. She was interviewed in that review, so I'm going to do that separately. But there's this band that, it's the whole argument is well, Ars Nova, how many bands are doing prog that are mostly, or if not all women? I mean, Warpaint to me sort of is a prog band. But there's this band that they mentioned from Scotland, which is not entirely female, all female, but they're called Ebb, EBB, Ebb. And it's space rock. I haven't heard any of the music. I just was curious about this. If I get into this band, I can kind of add it to the list of the feminine, the female membership and making music that isn't just pop music or whatever, or punk, that are that has female influence, and and so they're not going to be that. We're never going to get a majority in prog or metal of women and women in band, and women instrumentalists. But it's little baby steps. We're getting more. And this band, I don't know where they're going to go. They're a new band from Scotland, but looks like they have it's 6 members, and I think 5 out of the 6 are women, including the lead guitarist maybe. Anyway, so yeah, that's come across. Of course, there's new releases. Nickel Creek's new release, I'm liking a lot. Although I'm getting a Punch Brothers element too there. I love the instrumental portions. The vocals are still kind of hit and miss. Although Sarah Watkins, I know she was involved with that Nesmith thing back when he was dealing with the eye problems at that tribute. She's part of Nickel Creek, and I would have liked to have seen them. I am seeing Black Belt Eagle Saw. Speaking of female musicians, Catherine Paul, her most recent project of the last 6, 7, 8 years, is playing the Sear Cultural Center on Friday. So I imagine I'll go to that show and I'm doing a review maybe the following Monday or Tuesday. I don't know. I am going to probably start going back into my work in the office occasionally, but we're kind of a free-for-all here, so I can go weeks without. I don't have to. I could go 2 or 3 times. I miss the tacos. That's another thing that came up. It's food-related, but there's this place that my wife and I have been going to the last few months at this grocery store called Lund's in the Twin Cities, and they had this kiosk. We went to our anniversary dinner at this place called Tinto's Kitchen, and when we would pick up the corn chip, because they're freshly made and they're really good, and the guacamole and the red chile, which is like salsa, but it's chile, and some other stuff there. And they were there as a kiosk in Lund's. I guess going back to last fall when Lund's changed locations, but lo and behold, on Sunday morning or whenever they left, they're gone. So it's unfortunate, but the restaurant I believe still exists. I don't know. I'm trying to find out more information, but it's sad to see when you discover a new food and then, you know, it's not available. We have a laundry list of restaurants, not necessarily new food or just reliable restaurants maybe you take for granted. But anyway, I think that's about it. I mean, like I said, there's been other stuff that's been announced. Small League Sing Ships' his album. Hopefully we'll get information about that soon. R.I.P. to, you know, there's different musicians. Raymond Schulman of Gentle Giant, unfortunately. And the Japanese musician Ryuichi Sakamoto, I guess. Although I can't really claim to know, you know, that much about him. But I know he was a kind of a godfather of electronic music of some kind. But yeah, there was a couple other records that I think have been kind of likely to come out, but haven't. Yeah, this Naiku, the guy Nasir Malik from Eldrin, and then the Mercury Tree. Mercury Tree are going to do a record, I guess. It's going to be monotonal. They did microtonal. I'm going to do monotonal, but you know, there's just some other stuff that I know has been coming out that I just off the top of my head that people have been posting about or whatever. But anyway, thank you. Oh, Sigur Rós. I think I mentioned that in one of the last blogs, the stuff that's coming out. I think there's more records coming out in April, May, June that I'm going to go look forward to than, you know, although I can add on those records, the Telephone record, this Carolyn Polachek probably, in Crown Lands at least. But I just think there's a larger, you know, excitement for me for the records that are going to be coming out over the next few months, especially like the Squid record, East of the Wall, and stuff that probably hasn't been announced but is pretty much expected to be announced soon. So anyway, thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. We'll see you next time.